You get back, we're going to continue. You got it. Go.
Okay. So I'm going to try to respond as best I can. Some of that was a little garbled on my end. I might have a little bit of a bad signal, so I'm actually going to try to stand up and move a little bit and hopefully not interrupt the feed too badly. See if I can get a little bit of a better signal and hopefully don't lose any audio here. I should get a little closer to my Wi-Fi. Um, so I think I got the gist of what you were saying in alluding to there. But I think the for me the biggest thing is or was I should say before starting the business um, was was staying motivated to actually do it to keep pushing forward and finding what I was actually passionate about. I think the biggest thing, like I said, when I was with my former employer, was staying on him because I had no idea how many different resumes he had or how many different people he was looking at the time. Uh, but as an employer, it wasn't his responsibility to make sure that he reached out to every single person that asked him for a job, because there could have been 100 people that asked him for a job and maybe people that were better suited than I was at the time. But you don't know that. And it's really not their place to do that. So I stayed on him and um, really just kept bugging him to the point where it was probably, I would guess, probably annoying to him. He never said, as much to me, but I'm sure it was probably annoying at some point. Say, well, I'm not ready yet. Check back with me in a couple of weeks, or check back with me again in a couple of days. And so I kept checking back, and probably more than I should have. But eventually, got to the point where I got hired and realized I really loved doing the work. So, I took it upon myself to start learning more roles. He didn't teach me everything I needed to know, or he just really he wanted somebody for the basically front of house just to do, basic stuff, checking people out, ringing them up, checking in repairs, things like that. And he would have been content with me doing that the entire time I worked for him, but I wanted more. And again, it wasn't his responsibility to make me want more, but it was me that wanted more. So I asked, what kind of little things can I do, to show you that I do know how to repair stuff, that I don't just want to do sales. I have a bachelor's degree in computer networking. I've done tear parts of computers. I've done some minor tear parts myself, and kind of get to that point. And I bugged him and said, let me do something, let me do a repair, let me take something on. And started with phone repairs, and just kind of snowballed into smaller repairs, some things that were easy, and snowballed into bigger repairs, and to the point where I got so far advanced that I was repairing more things than he was repairing at the time. He would come to me and say, "Hey, can we do this?" Not knowing if we were able to do it or not, and I would go through and take care of all those for him. And then got to a point where I realized that and this was 3 years ago before the pandemic that we have now, that there would be a need for somebody that can do on-site repairs, that can come out to you where you don't have to go wait in line. Um, Typically, like an Apple store, you end up having to make an appointment. You get there, sometimes you wait an hour for someone to see you. Then after they see you, you might wait another couple hours for them to actually diagnose something and then tell you, oh, it's going to be a few hours or a month later. I realized I could eliminate all that by just
Doing it.
doing it, making myself available to actually just go out to people's houses. And so I've been doing on site. Has been everything, every part of my business for the last 3 years. And, it's been up and down and high times, low times. But during this pandemic, with everybody um, being furloughed, or um, having to switch from going into jobs to working from home, and certainly students, kids having to finish school, the rest of the school year from an iPad or a computer at home. Every parent in my area has wanted to get all their kids' devices fixed. Or they have to get their devices fixed because they have to use them for work now all of a sudden. Like, well, I can't have a cracked screen when I have to be on, phone calls, like, conferences like what we're doing now. A lot of them are using Zoom and things like this, where you have to, you can't have a crack near your camera because it's going
It's
to
not going to
affect
work. Yeah.
it's going to affect the meeting and it's not going to work. So they're on top of needing to get it fixed. So my business has gotten very busy over the last couple weeks.
Okay, so going into it, I didn't know. But going into this conversation, I just didn't know basically what your world was going to be like. So I mean, I don't know what's going on out there. Basically, in Missouri, I think like most states, it's just non-essential businesses are closed. So if they deem you non-essential, you're out. Because you're tied into daily life, you're able to go, or is Arizona a little more lax right now in what's going on?
Um, Arizona is like a lot of the rest of the country. There's businesses that are deemed essential and ones that are deemed non-essential. When our governor sent out the list of essential businesses, I thought, oh, I'm going to read through the PDF and it'd be one page, maybe two. I kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I was like, this would have been a shorter list if you would have just put out a list of what businesses are not essential versus which ones are essential. It seemed like every industry was essential. But over the last couple of days, they've closed down more businesses and said more, are not essential. But mine is always going to be essential because people are working from home right now. And in order to keep people working from home, they don't necessarily need my services 24/7, but, you know, things break, adults break stuff, certainly adults with kids. when kids have their devices, my 2.5-year-old son takes my phone and my wife's phone and throws them all the time. And, I'm fortunate enough I can fix it myself if it breaks, but not everybody has that ability.
Yeah. um, Dang. Okay. Well, that just kind of goes to prove because there's this whole thing of like, should you be, you know, there's this kind of conversation around like education and stuff like that. My take is not that like, people are like, oh, well, whatever, Google is making it to where you can now, apply there without a college degree or whatever. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, cool, that's Google. And you can only even get a look there if you're a genius. So if you're a genius at 18, great, go make a bunch of money. you know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like, if you're LeBron James and before they change the rules, you can go straight to, the NBA. By all means, go do it. For everybody else, sometimes there's a path to like business ownership, entrepreneurship, trades, whatever. That's going to take some kind of education, and sometimes there's not. But what I think we're going to see on the other side of this, as the economy it obviously is in a huge dip, and we're going to come out of it. Um, there is no doubt that you make quite a bit more money with a skill or education as opposed to the other part of the economy, which is just you're willing to work for a low wage. Just you will
Oh,
do
yeah.
whatever as a worker as opposed to you are skilled at something, right? And
Yeah.
so coming out of this, it's going to be more important than ever to have a skill. And unfortunately, a lot of people spend their college money, they spend their years getting things that are just not skills. you know,
Oh, yeah.
um, there's a lot of philosophy majors at Starbucks. And you know what? I mean, I just finished a book on Greek Stoicism. If you want to read philosophy, you got your whole life to do it. And maybe don't rack up $80,000 to $100,000 in debt
Right.
in doing that thing. To me, we are rewiring the world as we speak, and it's like the people that figure this thing out faster. What Mark Cuban calls, he's calling America 2.0. The people that figure it out faster are going to, be the ones that just absolutely just rake in the dollars right now. And anytime that you are in a situation where somebody has an emergency and you can do it immediately, man, you win, right?
Yeah.
And that's the business you're in.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, I think I just actually had a customer Saturday. I was in the middle of a repair in one area, and I had a phone call in the middle of the repair for another customer. His wife is working from home now, and her phone was damaged to the point where you couldn't see anything on the screen. The LCD panel, like the actual display itself, was completely white, and so you couldn't actually make anything out. But she needed it that night for work still. And he said, "Is there any way you can get out and do this today?" He's like, "Whatever it takes, I'll get you out here." And it was an iPhone 8, and I told him, I said, "Oh, it's just $79 for an iPhone 8 screen." And I said, "There's no extra just because I said, I understand you're in a rush. I said, but there's no extra because you're in a rush. It's just that's the price it is, and I can be out to you in about 30 minutes. I'm finishing up a repair right now, and by the time I get this done and bring it back into the house for him, um, I'll be on my way out to you and send me your address, and we'll get you taken care of. He was shocked.
Well, you know what though? That's good, man, because you do live in the world too, where I'm sure you live and die by Yelp and Google reviews, right? I mean, that's
Yeah, mine are basically actually Facebook reviews.
Facebook reviews. Yeah.
I find, well, I mean, in general, it seems insanely hard to get anybody to review good service. Just in general, people always think about reviewing when they have bad service, or they think, they had a bad situation, or they're at a bad, restaurant or whatever. But when they have a good meal, or they have a good experience with the repair company like mine, they don't always think to go and leave a review. But for me, I found maybe a few years ago it would have been Yelp, but at least for my industry, it seems like everything is
Everything's Facebook now.
Facebook
Yeah.
reviews.
Yeah. Well, and you'll notice that for all the doom and gloom, every year somebody says that Facebook's going to go away. People don't care about Facebook, whatever. By the way, I mean even though I put this out as a podcast, and we're on Twitter and YouTube, which all those things work, Facebook's still the biggest audience for me. This doesn't connect to. I can't multi-stream like this onto Instagram, which is absolutely huge. But for all the doom and gloom that Facebook's going to go away, they keep figuring it out. And one of the ways is like that you can get a lot more local information off of there like that. By the way, I do want to throw this out there. I mean, to me, it's like if you're any kind of like kind of side hustle, full-time business ownership, whatever it is, I would ask for it, mention it, tell people how important it is to you to make a living to get those. Whenever somebody mentions it to me, I always, and if it was a good experience, I usually grab Amanda's phone and just do it real fast too, just because I'm a little more techie than she is, so I'll just get it done, right?
Yeah.
But I just ask, man. I don't know if that's good or bad or not, but I totally ask.
I think it's great advice. I do the same thing. I ask all the time, and almost every customer, yeah, I'll get on and leave you a review immediately. And I don't think people don't leave reviews out of spite or because they're mad or angry. I think people just get busy, and like you said, like you'll do it right away so you can get it done and get it out of the way. But if you didn't grab Amanda's phone right away or do it from your phone right away to leave a quick review, just like even this talk right now, you had to step away for a couple of minutes. You'll put your daughter down. I have 2.5-year-old son. The whole time I've been in business, I started my business full time a month before my son was born. So, I mean, I became a dad and a business owner at essentially the same time. I had to figure both out. Very, very working from home. It's juggling. It's very much an back and forth juggling routine. And sometimes I just get busy and I forget to do things. Even as a business owner, my main priority is to respond to my customers when they have questions, when they want to schedule something. But every once in a while something comes up with my son, or we have a doctor's appointment, something happens, life gets busy and you just kind of forget. And so I don't think people necessarily don't want to leave reviews. I think it's just sometimes you get busy and you forget. And I've been fortunate enough that lately, especially, people have gone back on. Actually, just right before we got on live here, I got a notification that I had a review that just came in from a woman whose computer I fixed like the middle of last week. And she's like, "Oh, I'll absolutely do it right away." And I was starting to think, well, she's probably going to be another one of those that says, "Yeah, I'll do it," and didn't leave it. And then sure enough, the review popped up today, and it was a very nice review and well written and very much appreciative. And and I appreciated the review. So
well, and
she just had time to get around to it.
It's going to be close to 10 here shortly, so I probably can't go forever. This is such a good conversation though, because let's hit on a couple of things. What you are doing right now, America is now doing. And I actually feel like I'm oddly more prepared than most people for this kind of new work from home, remote work thing when you're talking about juggling everything. Just because I grew up on a farm, grew up with a bunch of farmers, and there is no delineation between, kind of what is your homework and your home, the things you have to do for your home, not your school work, and
Yeah,
the things you have to do for your career when you're on a farm because you live at the dang business,
right.
and it's kind of all one thing, and you just got to figure out how to manage your time. And it's very time sensitive, especially with like crops. It's very time sensitive. Once it's time to get the corn out, those corn ears are falling on the ground, costing you money if you don't get it.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the white collar world and has functioned sort of off the industrial revolution model for a long time. That we kind of we run our offices as far as hours and stuff like that, like you would run like a New England factory at the turn of the industrial revolution, and the work doesn't look like that anymore. Not my original idea. Seth Godin and a bunch of other people have written about it. All of a sudden, people who said they didn't want to work like that are now not working like that. And I wonder how many of them are freaking out because now you need a lot more self-discipline to manage your own day when you are not dependent on somebody else's like pressure to like see that you're working.
Yeah. I think some people will adapt fine to it, but I think there's going to be a large majority of people who will say this is not what I thought it was going to be. I really want structure again and can't wait to get back to an office environment or wherever the workplace is. I can't wait to get back and actually be able to clock in, leave my house and go actually get to work. So that was one of the things. Oh, my son's running in. That was one of the things uh, when my wife went back to work after our son was born. When she finally went back to work, I realized, wow, she actually, to me, I realized like she gets to leave and go to work. She
Yeah,
looked at it as I have to leave and go to work. So it's two different perspectives, of the same situation. Like for her, she didn't want to leave our son. She didn't
yeah.
want to go. She didn't have to. But it's the way the world works now. You kind of need two incomes in most houses, most households, and But for me, I was like, wow, I'm here for 12 hours, or 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever it is, and so for me, it's like I don't get to leave and have that, except when I'm, out doing repairs. But a lot of them, I certainly a good amount of repairs I bring back. There's iPads that I do in my home office. I started a new offshoot of the business called Staingate Repair, fixing MacBook Pro screens, and those are ones that I actually have business customers that anywhere from 200 to 600 screens a month. Uh, to me to repair the screens because I'm one of only two businesses in the world that actually repairs them and
The
without having to
MacBook. There's only
replace them.
two businesses that are repairing MacBook Pro screens. You mean outside the
The
actual Apple
retina
store? Oh,
screens,
the Retina screens.
the retina screen. So what that happens over time is the anti-reflective coating on them wears off, and it makes it look like it's stained. So one part of the screen will be will have like a darker black color, and then the other part will have it'll almost look sort of white and scratchy. And when the coating starts to wear off, it wears off unevenly. And Apple started replacing them for free up to 4 years from the original purchase date. But if you're past that, you have to pay $700 to $800 for a whole new screen assembly. They won't replace it or give you any sort of a break on the price, but they just replace it with a screen that's going to have the same issue after a couple of years. So there's hundreds of thousands of people that have MacBook Pros with Retina displays from late 2012 to current models, and they'll all do it at some point. It's just a matter either they've had it happen or it will happen at some point. And a lot of people who have had their screens replaced by Apple are having it happen again on their replacement screens. And Apple says, well, we can't do anything to new when you're past your warranty time at this point. So it's either up till now, their only option has been to take it to a third-party repair shop to have them replace it and hope it's less than what Apple is charging. Which, like I said, Apple is anywhere from $700 to $800. I can replace some of those screens depending on the year for $500 to $600 to replace the entire display assembly, or I've actually come up with a three-part solution to removing the anti-reflective coating completely and making it so the screen looks like it's brand new. And I only charge $109 for that. So that instead of having to replace it can save you up to $700. And so I just started doing this right before the pandemic hit. So that was a little bit hard because my business customers that I had contracts lined up with decided that they needed to buy as much inventory as possible. So I work with a lot of business customers who buy wholesale computers and they resell them to
Yeah.
individuals and smaller companies. And so, but they buy tons of them from school districts, from businesses, from colleges who lease them out, and they'll lease out 1,000 of them or 2,000 of them at a time, and they purchase them to resell them. But they sell them a lot cheaper if they have the delamination issues and the anti-reflective coating. If that's coming off, nobody has figured out how to actually remove it, except for one company on the East Coast in New Jersey, which I won't say the name. And I've been working on it for a very, very long time, and finally figured out how to actually successfully remove it.
Dang.
As far as I know, I'm one of only 2 in the world that does this.
Yeah, well, and that I think that kind of goes back to the thesis of kind of this particular conversation is, hey, guess what? The whole world got punched in the face. Unemployment's going to be pretty high. I mean, thank God I'm in a pretty good professional situation where I'm honestly not, waking up every morning worried about it. But a couple things. Number one, if you've been in something that's just like, not essential, or maybe is really important, like you were, you were on the road doing band management, right? Tour management, that's really essential. But it may not be financially viable right now because people may be scared to go do something. The way I see it, it's like you can either, like just totally mope, or you can figure out anything that gets you to the next step. And it may be getting a CDL in 2 weeks and doing that for 6 months until things are full speed again. There's just nothing wrong with that. The second thing that you got going on is that, first of all, I don't think people should just try to go do what you're doing, because I've seen the pictures of like what it looks like to take one of these newer iPhones apart. And dude, there's so many people doing phone repair horribly. But there's so many things like that you could just go do, throw it on Facebook, throw it on Twitter, and just network your way to a few hundred extra bucks a month. Even before this, like I have never had only one source of income since I was 17, 18 years old. I've always had more than one thing going. Always. There's always been a secondary check coming in. And that has saved me more times than I can possibly count. That's not traditionally been the mindset of Americans. And it's like, okay, time to get there. It's like, oh, I don't want to work so much. Most people throughout world history spent the vast majority of their lives trying to not die. Shut up. You can work a little more.
Oh, yeah. I think the important thing is adapting. For me, it's been, as a business owner, figuring out how to adapt my business to meet the current needs or the current situation that we find ourselves in, as not just the country, but as the whole world. What we're dealing with as the human race. This is a global pandemic. It affects everybody. How do you adapt to that? How do you figure it out? And that, for me, as a business owner, I've had to figure out so that I can keep having income for myself and for my family. But it also goes into my personal life too. How do you adapt? How do you take in all of the information that's being thrown at you, and how do you digest it? How do you deal with it? How do you look forward to tomorrow, to next week, to next month? Do you have is there a plan in place? Do you have goals? Do you have things in mind? And I think it's just, especially as a business owner, though, I think that's helped shape that part of my mindset is just, how do I adapt? Anytime that there's, an issue, is there something that I can't fix? Well, why can't I fix it? Is there something that I can replace instead of repairing? Is there, how do you adapt and overcome certain situations and issues that you find yourself in?
Yeah. Like I said, I got to land the plane here just because I gotta do some more crap tonight. It's getting late. How long did it take you to get good at this, though? Like really good at it, master the craft, really good at it. Yeah.
I think to get really good, about 10 years. I mean, in all honesty,
Yeah.
because with I think my industry is a little bit different than some other ones, only because there's so much that constantly changes with technology.
Yeah.
So to get really good at it, you could be really good at fixing, a computer from 2009, but that internally is night and day from a computer from 2016,
Yeah.
which is only a 7 year difference. But there's so many differences that there's just no similarities, that you can't just get good at something and say, okay, I'm great at it. You have to keep learning and learning, especially with technology. Every phone that comes out, they change the layout of how everything is internally. They change the way that the connectors work. They even change the heads on the screws. So it's not just Phillips head screws. There's little screws that have a Y shape to it. There's screws that have 5 points to it, and you have to know where each one of these different screws go in the phone. You have to, so there's all kinds of adaptation, even just in learning, my field. But no, honestly, probably about 10 years. And yeah, I mean, computer wise, computers, once you start figuring out the inner workings of them, you can figure it out in a year, 2 years, and get pretty good at fixing computers. Phones, I mean, it took me a couple thousand phones before I could say, yeah, I could do a new phone could come out tomorrow, and I guarantee you I can fix it within 3 days.
Yeah. Dang. Um, well,
But
that's
thousands of them.
and maybe that's kind of the third thesis that we're going to hit here. So the first one is like it doesn't really pay that well to be a criminal unless you're really good at it and you're not, which is because it takes too long to get good at it. um, the second thing is go where the need's at, especially right now. And the third thing is, I think right here is, my gosh, Americans, we are very entrepreneurial. Um, we're pretty innovative people. Our lives have not been very hard. They're starting to get a little bit hard right here, right now. And I would say that as a culture, we've been greatly lacking in resilience, which means a lot of people quit when things get hard. Um, Maybe we come out of that differently.
Yeah.
I've only got, what, 13 eggs left in the fridge, and it was only one carton of eggs per household this weekend. So, um, 13 eggs lasts until we want to risk going out for groceries again. And if they have some, I actually think that changes the amount of toughness that people have. Um, but where you're really seeing your business thrive, it's not perfect marketing. I mean, this is just my take. It's not perfect marketing. It's not because you got lucky. It's honestly just that you put the time in and now you can knock it out really fast. I get concerned right now, especially with all this talk of socialism, of like, oh, why do these people have this and um, and I don't or whatever. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and there's certainly things we can do to help people who, were born with a lot of stuff to overcome. But one of the reasons that somebody has a lot more than you is because you're a loser. Because you whine and you quit frickin' Little League, and now that behavior has followed you around in your mid 30s, and you don't stick to anything, and you've had 9 different careers, and I kind of had 2, but they were all related. I was always moving through something. It's like, oh, you tried to sell cars for 4 minutes and you didn't sell any cars, so you got sad and ate your feelings at fast food, quit in the afternoon, and went and did something else, and you wonder why you can't find your calling. Your calling is stick somewhere and just get good at something, for gosh sakes, and then money will show up. You
Yeah,
agree with that?
absolutely, 100%. I mean, there's there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out. Like I said, I had a lot of different jobs before, in different career paths before going into this. But I took something from each one of them. I stayed with them long enough to get good at those jobs, but I also learned things. When I worked in oil refineries, I had a dispatcher that would call me to do stuff, but a lot of times I had to work on my own schedule. So I had to learn how to. That was the first job I had ever had where I had to actually manage my time, and I just say, okay, this is what I need to get done, and I have to get it done in this amount of time. So how do I do that? That skill has helped me as a business owner doing on-site repairs, going to people and saying, hey, yes, I can be there at this time. It's going to take 20 to 30 minutes. You will have it done. Um, Managing my schedule for myself, that skill from one job to another. It's not, there was no technology really involved in working in oil refineries for me. It was manual work, but there were parts of it that I learned from and I used to move forward into what I'm doing now. And I think, like you said, there's yours, everything you've done, has been sort of, in a path, going to the same sort of things. But I think, anybody that if they, figure out what they want to do, what they're passionate about, put time into that. Like you said, you have to put time in. You have to become good at it. The only way to become good at it is to put time in. The easiest things to put time into are things that you're passionate about. And me, I absolutely love electronics. I geek out over them. I love when new phones come out. I'm the person that when Apple has, an event going on, I don't do anything else. I put it up on my TV. I don't do jobs. I sit and watch it. My wife makes fun of me. Why are you watching another one of those? Because there's new technology coming out. I want to know what it is. She's like, it's not just that it's my business, it's that I actually love it. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So why do I put time into it? Because I actually enjoy it.
Well, and when I say go where the need is at, and then you're saying follow your passion, those two things can and should be related.
Yeah.
Especially, and you know what? Once you've made your money, do your thing. One of my favorite stories is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Dude was a millionaire way before he was a movie star because he was, he had a whole bunch of apartment buildings. He'd invested wisely and just kind of kept building them up. So, by the time movies came along, he could get turned down a whole bunch of times without having to worry about like whether or not he was going to have to leave the expensive, kind of lifestyle of LA of trying to make rent and get his bills paid. Because like he had the money in. So you're like, oh, well, I really want to be a screenwriter or I really want to be a musician. Cool. Be a nurse while you're being a musician. So you sell enough records, you can bounce out. There's no reason to starve to death while you're doing that.
Oh.
And what you're talking about, I think there's always a place where the kind of the practical and the dream meet, and just go there, especially right now. Like go there and figure it out. And if you don't know what the heck that is yet, write down stuff you like. Get on the internet and figure out where that thing intersects with something people need, and I think maybe that your life will be changed. Hey man, let's do shout out two things before we go. One of mine, one of yours. I am working on building a community of people that are outside of traditional social networks, and it's on an app called Mighty Networks because just quite frankly, I just have less and less trust in the algorithms of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram to show you the kind of content which I do, which is not screaming, yelling content, which is what tends to always go to the surface or the most extreme. And if I want to keep having the kind of conversations I want to keep having, I'm going to have to build it somewhere else because otherwise you're just never going to see my stuff. Particularly here, if you want to talk about getting a side hustle, ideas for how stuff that's out there that's pretty easy to get done, I'm going to get some ideas together and post those in the morning over on my Mighty Networks, and then you can jump over there and have really meaningful conversations with people who kind of I've met along the way, just like I met you, that are looking to do something. I think everybody all the time should have a second form of income. If you don't have one yet, let's get some ideas and get one for you. By the way, Mac It Better, which is I'm sure something I will use in the future. Maybe just buy a machine from you, as Amanda's laptop's kind of probably getting there. It's a 2015, and or God forbid next time our toddler destroys something. So, you do mail-ins and stuff like that. It's not just if you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We do mail-in repairs. Mail-in repairs. I source. I had a customer who's a record producer in Nashville. Just bought a brand new Mac Mini from me. That was able to save him money versus buying it directly from Apple, even though it was brand new. I was able to save him money and actually get it set up so that he could use all the current software that he had that was not compatible with the way that Apple sells them with their newest operating system. So I do mail-in. I do a lot of sourcing for customers as far as, like you said, buying machines, buying, selling, fixing. You can go to wemacitbetter.com to see prices. That's more for the in-state. Other website is staingaterepair.com. That's for any delamination issues with MacBook Pros. And it does have a direct link to be able to buy now and ship it in, and all the information as far as sending it out. Most are done and sent back next day. Yeah.
And by the way, if you were here for the entire, we're gonna do one more thing before we hang up, man. I want you to hang with me just so we find out the answer here. The story I opened with of the guy that basically said he was gonna torch me because I broke into his cave in Kentucky. Let's see if he messages me. Hang on. He's still basically threatening me and say I have to meet at his cave, and